Embark on a captivating journey along Bangkok's River of Kings. Discover the iconic Wat Arun, witness regal splendour at the National Royal Barges Museum, and find the spiritual treasures and golden elegance of Wat Trimitr. It all makes a memorising tableau of Thai heritage. So today's trip is a small group trip along the river of Chao Phraya and is billed as the River of Kings. We're going to go along the river, take in the various landmarks and see what we can see. We were probably a little bit apprehensive about this trip because it's 9 hours. It was very tiring doing the 6-hour trips that we'd done within Vietnam. 9 hours seemed an incredibly long period of time. And then when we looked at the itinerary a bit more, you could see that a large amount of that was made up from getting to and from the river, from the ship, 3 hours each way. When we got on the coach itself, it was very clear that there was masses of space. We had the same sort of size coach that we'd had back in Vietnam, but it was well less than half the occupancy, and as a result we both had our own bench of seats, which meant that we had some space to spread out. We're on a toll road heading towards Bangkok, and as we get nearer to the city you can see the landscape changing considerably. Bangkok is the city capital and the chief port of Thailand. It's the only cosmopolitan city in the country, and it's Thailand's cultural and commercial centre. It's located on the delta of the Chao Phraya Rive, about 25 miles from the Gulf of Thailand. When we started this journey, everywhere was largely industrial. Now you can see the immense difference in the buildings as we pass them by on the tollway. At this part of the river there's a really colourful display of tourist boats. Look absolutely fantastic. Oh, you may be able to see, but the river itself was quite murky, and as we went along it we could also see that there was a fair amount of plastics. In fact, the Thai Pollution Control Department reports that the river quality in this particular river is very poor, and a large amount of wastewater is being discharged into the river from households, industry and agriculture. It's estimated to be something like 190 different species of fish in the river, but it is thought that only 30 of the natural species of fish can actually reproduce. We went along, our tour guide pointed out the landmarks and told us some information about them. The journey was quite bumpy, I suspect because the boat was quite long and also quite thin. There was also a fair amount of weight being thrown up by all of the boats, which then actually caused a level of disruption and gave you some of that motion. There's a real range of buildings as you go along the river. You've got some obviously fairly old buildings, such as temples, but there are also a number of contemporary buildings, such as the high skyscrapers. Our first stop is going to be at a Buddhist temple, which is called Wat Arun, which is otherwise also known as the Temple of Dawn. The temple derives itself from a Hindu god, Aruna, and is often personified as the radiation of the rising sun. It's probably one of the best known landmarks in Thailand. The temple has existed since at least the 17th century, but the very distinctive spire was built in the 19th century during the reigns of Rama II and Rama III. So we pulled up outside a temple and got off the boat.
I have to say, getting on and off that boat was really quite difficult. I found it very hard. It was quite choppy on the water and the boat was going up and down, and I sort of needed quite a bit of help. So, I did it, but it was hard. I found it hard.
Yeah, but the thing for me was I'm fairly tall, and when I actually tried to get out of the cabin, I kept hitting my head, and then you had that 4-foot bow that you had to sort of crawl over.
It was quite a high up step, so, if you haven't got a lot of bend in your knees, which I haven't, it was quite a high step to step up and then, pull yourself up, but...
Anyway, the main thing is we managed to do it.
Yeah, we did it.
Both of us managed to do it, and no one on our party ended up in the drink.
Thank God. It was very hot though, wasn't it? Oh my goodness, it was hot there.
So we came across the temple, having gone through a relatively small door.
We couldn't really miss it, really. It was huge.
It was huge, but the door that you went through made quite an entrance. But to me, it looked very much like when we went to Barcelona, the garden.
Yeah, it was actually, yes.
Yeah,
a bit like that. There was lots of bits and goodness knows what on it, wasn't there?
Yeah, and it seemed to be mainly covered in porcelain. And that when the sun caught that porcelain,
very, very pretty, wasn't it?
Yeah, it really
lovely.
sprinkled.
Yeah.
It's hard to show on the video and give it justice, but it was incredible.
Yeah, and of course, also on the video, it doesn't come out how absolutely really hot it was.
And you couldn't really go inside. You could go up the steps, and I did. I went up the steps, and when I was going up there seemed to be loads of people in like traditional Thai dress.
Yes, well, I noticed that in their best Thai dress. They were absolutely beautiful, men and women. And I just thought it was because it was a temple and they'd come out for the day and they dressed up. So I actually did ask the tour guide, and he said it was down to a television programme, very popular television programme. He did say the name and I can't remember it. And evidently the heroine and the hero in the television programme, there's a scene where they're at this temple and they're all dressed up, and so everybody pays homage to it and comes all dressed up, which is lovely. They really were quite, weren't they? Film and television. Mad, weren't they, on some programmes, we found out.
And if you didn't have a partner to take your picture with, there were lots of people using selfie cameras to do that.
Yeah.
Very, very different.
It's very interesting. I thought that. a lovely temple, and we're very, very hot. There's Stevie boy down there, taking photos. So if you stand up, Stevie, we can talk to camera. So where are we?
We are at the Temple of Dawn, and it's absolutely fantastic. It seems to be made out of old porcelain, cut up and placed onto the side of the temple. Apparently it was a much smaller temple originally, and it has been significantly expanded over the ages. But when the sunlight hits it, it really does glisten. Absolutely gorgeous.
I'm going to turn you round so you can see a bit. It's beautiful. It's porcelain. Oh, wow. And when the sun shines, it glistens. So over here, it's so hot. There, look. Beautiful. So Steve's taking me and I'm taking Steve. No, let's carry on. He's telling me to put the camera away. I'm telling him to carry on.
Trying to get an arty shot, as you can see here. So we made it back to the meeting place, but when we got there, it was absolutely deserted. No one else was there. I know it's unusual for us to be on time, but normally we expect to at least find the guide there, but he wasn't there. Where's everybody else?
I know they're coming, I'm sure.
You sure it's here?
Yes.
I think everybody else was running significantly late. Anyway, they rocked up about 5-10 minutes later in dribs and drabs, and then we reformed the crocodile, and led by our tour guide, we went back to the boat.
So of course I did manage to find a couple of shops. They were kind of like sort of market stalls, and I bought these two. They were made out of buffalo hide, and they were cut out of buffalo hide. Things, elephants, a big elephant and a little elephant that you put on the wall. I think I was done probably, but I did get them. I did haggle and I did get the price down.
And have you put them up yet?
No, I haven't. I need to find a big enough frame.
Where are we now?
We're at the Royal
Barges Museum.
National Museum.
So the price of the admission to the museum was included within the tour. However, there was a catch. You had to pay if you wanted to take any photographs or if you wanted to do any videos.
In fact, it was about $3 American. We paid in dollars, actually, American dollars. It's about $3 for photographs. And I can't remember for video, but it was at least double, wasn't it? It was $6 or $7 or even $8 for video. So, of course, Steve had to have the video, so we had to pay the $8.
Well, I sort of thought we'd negotiated the rate, and then all of a sudden it seemed to double, but still. Anyway, these barges were fairly intricate pieces of work.
They were enormous, actually, weren't they? They were really long.
I mean, it's about 30 oarsmen or so that used to do each of these, and they're incredibly detailed.
They had a video sort of television thing there that you could watch them when they go out and do ceremonial things, and they had kind of this bench thing that I sat on because I thought it was a bench to sit on, and got told off, and I had to stand up and move on. I mean, they were very nice about it, wasn't it? It wasn't horrible, but you weren't allowed to sit down. You had to sit on at this other place to watch it.
You didn't go on board, did you?
No, not on board. No, anybody would think I was touching them. It was just to watch the film. But there was a lovely big fan there, and I stood in front of the fan for a bit, which was nice.
Whilst I looked around the museum, I really did think the detail on these was incredible. All of them had, and I assume it was a cannon at the front of the boat. It was very, very difficult to see actually quite what it was, but I assume it was a small cannon.
Well, they do come out, they do use them for ceremonial things and different things. So that would be quite fantastic to watch, all of those boats, because there's a lot of gold and lots of colours and thing, but they're all housed in this lovely place with a roof on it.
The museum was down a tributary to the main river, and for us it was easily accessible. However, we spent about half an hour there, and it was a well worthwhile experience. Really enjoyed our time. I think the only way you could better seeing these ships in this environment is to actually see them on the river itself, but that's going to be once in a blue moon. For the majority of people coming to the museum, it's the only way that they're actually going to experience it. And I must say, it's really well worth it. So if you're in this vicinity, make your way along. So as we left the museum, we headed back the way we'd come, and we were now going off for a bite to eat. So we moored for lunch at this rather interesting restaurant which was attached to the hotel. Not quite sure how you pronounce it. I'm not even going to try. This was probably the most chaotic lunch we had on any of the excursions that we went on. The buffet was actually not bad, but you just couldn't tell where the queues started and finished, and people were squabbling over each other to try and get to whatever food they wanted, which was a real pity actually, because with a bit of organisation it would have been beautiful. So our river tour had finished, and after lunch we piled back on the bus, except our bus actually had a puncture, so during the lunch period they'd organised a replacement, and then we were soon back on our way again. To our final stop, which will be the Wat Trimitr temple, situated near Chinatown. We had to cross the city, and it was somewhat congested and quite slow to make that journey. Anyway, we arrived at the temple and had the opportunity to look round for about 3/4 of an hour. It was incredibly hot in the area around the temple, and the guide offered us the opportunity to go and take in the great golden Buddha that was the namesake of the temple itself. So a group of us decided to go in. Joanne stayed in the shade looking after the shoes, and we made our way into the temple. I got in trouble within about a nanosecond, because after we'd taken off our shoes I made the mistake of walking on that red carpet. Apparently only the monks are allowed to tread on the carpet. Trimitr is known as the Temple of the Golden Buddha, and we can see the Golden Buddha here. It's 3.98 meters high and has a span across the knees of about 3 meters. It's made entirely of gold. It's solid gold and weighs a total of 5.5 tons. So this statue actually has quite an unusual history, and when Bangkok was being established, the Shakari kings encouraged the recovery of Buddha statues that had been abandoned in the northern cities, and in particular Ayutthaya. These statues were then transported back to Bangkok by the river, and apparently in the reign of King Rama, a huge statue of Buddha, apparently made of brown clay, was installed in a minor temple, and during the transit, as the statue was being hoisted up, it slipped from its straps and ended up breaking, and when it was examined they found out that it was actually made of solid gold. Probably being put there to protect it from marauding Burmese when they invaded. But an interesting story. So I think partly because it was quite hot, most people headed back to the coach, and I returned, and then we started our journey back. It's probably worth saying that the streets of Bangkok were absolutely jam-packed, and we knew that the journey was going to be 3 hours. In fact, it actually ended up being over 4 hours. The traffic on the road was phenomenal, both on the motorway and also on the roads through the city. Our guide explained that Bangkok was actually very notorious for its traffic problems, and that was partly due to the roads. There wasn't enough of them and they weren't wide enough. There was a large amount of private automobile usage, partly because it was a status symbol and also because of the lack of public transport, and traffic management in Bangkok was extremely poor. All of this led us to get back to the ship incredibly later than we expected, and by the time we did, it was dark.
What is that?
That is a mushroom vol au vent.
I have a salmon poke. Ever a salmon poke is.
Poke bowl. Making a mess of it.
Yes, I can say that with great certainty. You are making a mess of it.
Oh dear. No, I can do this.
And that's how you eat spaghetti.
Worth the wage. I bet it doesn't come alive.
And what was your meal
It's
like?
lovely once I've got it on the spoon.
I thought it was once you got it in the mouth.
Probably should have done the Italian style. I just twisted it on the fork and putting it in, but I didn't. It's quite nice. I've got a chocolate sphere coming, which I don't know if it will be a light or not.
We shall see.
I realized that.
And I had a very nice salmon poke for starter. My mouth is still recovering. There was some rather hot chili in it, but it was absolutely lovely. It tasted a bit like smoked salmon, though it's never been cooked, it's been marinated, and it was on a bed of rice. That was really nice. And for my main course, my entree, I had pork tenderloin, and that was absolutely tender with a nice little bit of mustard and some potato puree and a bed of onions. Really, really nice. Enjoyed that. Absolutely top notch. And like Joanne, I'm also going for the chocolate sphere. Let's see what that entails.
Yeah, burn all the calories. Yes.
And you're sure this burns the calories?
Oh.
Power.
Oh my goodness.
Oh.
Oh.
You too? You ready, sir?